12 Circling Dancers, Chapter 20 of the Great Cosmic Mother. Again and again in the religion of the Great Mother, one comes across 12 dancers in a circle. Even the passion I have revealed in the others in the round dance, I would have called it a mystery. These are supposedly the original words of Christ, leading the 12 apostles in a hymn to the biblical Father. And as the following comes from the Gnostic round dance, taken from the Acrophal Acts of St. John, and we all circled round him and responded to him, Amen. The 12th of the numbers paces the round aloft. Amen. To each and all it is given to dance. Amen. Both the dance and the number 12 are taken from the original goddess religion, the old religion, as witches and pagans would say. Everything alive in Christianity, especially its heresies, is taken from the old religion. Within the witches' covens, there are 12 members and a high priestess. Women and men in alternating positions dance around the magic circle that has been drawn on the ground or floor and blessed by the high priestess. The witches take their sacrament and jump over the holy fire to stimulate the life-giving energies of the moon. The witches or Wiccan wise ones practice an ancient women's religion, the Dianic cult, whose rites and beliefs were passed down directly to the earliest Paleolithic and Neolithic religions. It has apparently been determined that the secret language used now in the covens is Neolithic Basque. Very interesting, since Basque is believed to be a remnant of the language used in Atlantis. During the Christian Inquisition and witch hunts, which went on for over 5 centuries, the Wiccan chose hideous torture and death at the stake rather than forego their ancient ways, inherited from the beginning of things. They believed that the fertility of the countryside and the health of the people, pagan means peasant, depended on the performance of their sacred rites. And they also knew they were involved with the irreducible truth, the unprovable original. In a Neolithic cave located in Sacromonte, Spain, 13 skeletons, all in priestess dress and holding amulet bundles, were found. They sat in a circle and apparently had participated in a ritual death. The floor was strewn with beads and seeds of the opium poppy. The high priestess wore a leather tunic engraved with geometric symbols. We don't know why they chose to die in this cavern north of Granada, but they were sister members of the world's oldest religion. On Crete, the sacred ring dances were performed. Naked women dancers, arms linked, circled within an area enclosed by the sacred horns of consecration. Perhaps they danced to raise the Kundalini powers, the collective free flow of their mental, biological, and spiritual energies directed at a common task or vision. The dance is a recreation of the goddess's original cosmic dance of creation, clockwise, and dissolution, counterclockwise. We don't know what kind of power is generated by these dances, but we can guess. Some other form of energy, real technological power, can be produced by tapping the terrestrial and cosmic energy currents and consciously directing their flow. When the psychic powers, body, mind, and spirit, are correctly consecrated, magical results are possible. All existence is the result of vibrations of the elements. All matter consists of cosmic light and sound waves vibrating at different speeds. The pure sound of the elemental composition. Sufis believe that the round one is able to affect and perhaps control the elements. Elizabeth Gold Davis suggests that ancient women shamans were able to control, by group sound, the elemental vibrations with very practical results. Indeed, legends from the Near East, Europe, and Britain tell of great stones being raised, huge megalithic structures built by magic use of sound alone. In one legend, large stones are set floating in the air by women playing sacred pipes. Rocking stones, poised in such a way that they moved at a touch, perfectly balanced, were used for divination and magic. Oracles, always women, were inspired by the sound of the stones rocking and the energy is generated. Such rocking stones can only be found throughout the countryside of Britain and in the Breton coast of France. How were these cyclopean walls of Jericho and Malta built? Remember the builders used no metal tools. Remember the reoccurring images of the goddess, her priestesses, the dancers with upraised arms. Perhaps this was the posture of the cosmic moment when the goddess appeared, the moment of simultaneous time, non-time, when galactic and earth forces fuse and flow together, directed by the human spirit. Women in a dance circle with upraised arms are pictured in Stone Age cave and cliff paintings throughout Europe and Africa, the first homes of humanity. Millennia later, in patriarchal legend, Moses was supported upraised arms, helped bring victory to the Hebrews. This iconic posture of a power figure with upraised arms supported the people goes way back to the first human experiences of the goddess, and the concept is always related to the fusion of material and spiritual energies in a charged or magic body. The goddess with upraised arms and parted legs gave birth to the universe and the world. Ancient images also show her as a magic musician blowing sacred pipes or conch shells. In the Tanzanian cliff paintings found by Mary Leakey, some estimated 29,000 years old, all the groups are dancing women, some carrying musical instruments. A tall, wonderful red ochre pipe plays with dashed lines falling from the end of her pipe. A singer's open mouth has the same lines falling from it. These lines are song and could also be rain. A South African Bushman painting shows a naked woman in the sky with magic rain-making lines coming from her body and the rain falling on a reclining woman and man standing with upraised arms. Ancient rainmaking was a woman's activity, or rain was seen to fall from a woman's body, e.g., the moon. As the processor of the secret of life, women's music, dancing, and utterance had magic and binding significance, helping to release the life forces not into chaos, but into harmonious activity. Women, in their dances, imitated the animals, especially birds and snakes, and resonated with the natural energies of earth and weather. In women's art, poetry design also, connections were made between meanders, rhythm, music, and dance, rippling waters, and motions of snakes and water birds. In this way, women originated dance, music, art, and ritual as a magic linking of physical and symbolic forces. Young women of the Bavenda tribe in South Africa identify with the serpent force. Older female initiators kneel in the center as pivots, around which the young dancers spiral in the rhythmic coils and undulations of the python. Collapsing and reviving, they rest like forces of nature in the seasonal round of death and birth. The Homian priestesses of West Coast Africa still perform a very similar python dance as an energy raiser in communication with departed spirits. These women are invoking more than personal fertility. Their dances are ritual linkings, religare, to bind, of the individual and tribal energies with the entire musical pulse of the earth, and with the dance cycle of cosmic energies. This primordial and continuous linking or symbolic binding always took place within, through, by means of the female body. The health, well-being, and experienced ecstasy of a people depended on the health, well-being, and experienced ecstasy of this female body, of individual women, of Mother Earth, and the cosmic dancing woman. Sufi dervishes claim that their hand-clapping, dancing, whirling, and singing are involuntary expressions of the divine power manifesting itself through their bodies. They say that this was a way of life handed down from remotest antiquity. This training in ecstasy was designed to produce the perfect woman or man within this world, not out of it. Sufi dancing is a vehicle for self-realization, an experience of the self's joyous union with the larger self of the universe. The dervishes developed their ecstatic rites against a background of moralistic, strict, and misogynistic Islam, where they reconnecting in patriarchal milieu with ancient matriarchal rites of ecstatic women shamans. Their teaching is based on this concept of essence. She who knows herself, her essential self, knows God. She who knows her essential self knows God. The dervish is called the knower, lover, follower, traveler. Dervish itself means poor man or waiting at the doors of enlightenment. Are Sufis the inheritors of some of the rites of ancient great goddess? They are. Even as the Essenes were originally ecstatic worshippers in the temple of Artemis of Euphesius, the Sufi ceremonial acts as an Amazonian labrys, a bronze double crescent of the goddess, direct descendant of the double axes used by priestesses on matriarchal Crete. In Sufi belief, there is a form of superior mental activity available to human beings, and its power can be manifested on the plane of daily life. But most people cannot open to this mental power because our psychic energies are blocked by rigid, conventional, and dualistic thought habits. The superconsciousness includes precognition, telepathy, and bilocation, the ability to exist in two places at once. Sufis encourage poetic thinking and language and specialize in making startling and cryptic utterances. This has given them a reputation as socially unrealistic, even mad. In fact, they are female. They teach techniques to help free the mind from cultural preconceptions and conditioned ideas, and their methods are not lineal and verbal, but multisensory, using auditory, tactile, kinetic sense impacts as well as visual. Sufis believe that their teachings constitute the inner reality of all religions, the core truth and techniques of all human spiritual psychic experience. And so it seems to be. Elements of their teaching can be found in the early troubadour culture of Europe, in the witch cults and mystic rites of the Knights Templar, in alchemic and Gnostic ideas, i.e., in all those pagan European remnants of the great goddess worship, which the Christian church worked for so many centuries to destroy. Many of the same core techniques are found among Native Americans, Siberian shamanic cultures, Haitian Voodoo cults, and what remains of African magic religion, especially among the Dahomey and other West African goddess people. As Sufis believe in communication without physical essence, they could be spread out everywhere. Wandering musical Sufi gestures and arikins in patchwork costumes, traveling on foot from city to city, teaching by songs and cryptic words, sometimes not speaking at all. No matter how much physical distance separates them, all Sufis feel themselves to be linked by a force they called baraka, meaning grace, lightness, and beauty. In their ecstatic dance rites, Sufi dervishes go into swoons. They sing, sigh, weep, cry, sway from side to side, thrust knives into their flesh, burn themselves in the heat of delirious passion. In the mystic spiral, Jill Peirce describes a dervish dancing in flowing robes. The dervish starts his dance with his arms crossed over his breast, suggesting a junction in the heart of the descending and ascending vortices. He has his left foot firmly earthed, representing the still axes. By moving his right foot, he begins like a planet to turn around its own axis while revolving with his fellows around a central sun, the leading dervish. He gradually expands, uncrosses his arms, and lowering his head over his right shoulder, he raises his right arm of and in consciousness to receive the divine emanation and lowers his left to return his gift to the earth. He spins gradually faster, as if by his own revolutions were connecting heaven and earth by actually turning the spirit through himself and down in the ground, while his axis and heart remain absolutely still, with his own spirit soars to the divine source. The greater his ecstasy, his expansion and speed, the wider his skirt extends. When his arms are both outstretched to heaven, it is as if the union in his heart, delineated with the state of contraction, spirit into matter by his crossed arms, has reached its fullest expression, matter into spirit. But the opposing gyres of arms and skirts, the outer expression of the bliss of the divine union in the very stillness of the heart. If, at one point in this dance, with the arm pointing to the sky and the left to the earth, the dervish seems very much like the magician of the tarot cards. It is because they come from the same place and of the same meaning. The Paleolithic male shaman in animal skins and mask stood in the same posture, holding up the lunar bâton de commandement, borrowed from a woman's mysteries to be as an androgynous ensign of power. This magician's baton, misnamed by a male archaeologist, was the woman's lunar calendar stick, the first time measuring device known, dating from the Ice Age. A male magician or shaman cannot be magic, i.e. female, without it. The other forms of ecstatic dancing come down to us from the Near East, Thrace, Mediterranean, preserved in Greek legend. One of these ecstatic dance of the Bacchantes, wild women intoxicated by chewing ivy leaves, and also the mushroom sacred to Dionysus. The Bacchantes, or the Thracian Menades, mad women, were the daughters of the Great Mother, her white wild maids, possessing the magical power to make the whole earth blossom. Rites were performed on mountaintops and in the touch of these wild women's wands, the original lunar calendar sticks, streams of wine and water, milk and honey broke free and flowed from the rocks. In their ivy-induced fury, and at the dark of the moon, they would tear any man in pieces who happened to cross their path or enter their sacred precincts. Dionysus himself, who would call basely effeminate, was torn apart ritually and eaten as a sacrament. This story could apply to the magic mushroom itself, which was called Dionysus. The cult of Dionysus and the wild woman was popular with the common people, especially those in the countryside, far into Roman times. Central to this cult were the ancient mushroom mysteries, the communal eating of hallucinogenic psilocybin called the body of Dionysus. The spotted scarlet flycap, Amanita muscaria, was referred to as Christ's body by Hebrew and in early Christian cultists. There is no doubt that all ancient religious experience was associated with, if it did not originate in, hallucinogenic experience, and that was under the tutelage of women, the Great Stone Age pharmacologists. Anthropologist Jacquetta Hawkes also believes that the ecstatic mystery of the religion of Dionysus, the tender-faced and curly-haired son of the Cretan Great Mother, was originally the cult of the great goddess herself and her wild, orgiastic women. When we think of the love and death god Dionysus surrounded by white, wild, mad women, our minds fly back immediately to that old Stone Age cave in northern Spain, with the hugely genitaled young man surrounded by a crescent of 9 moon phase women all dancing. This was the young man who became the Neolithic son lover of the goddess, and eventually Christ. In Cretan myth, Dionysus was the bisexual son of the mother, raised as a girl among women. Throughout the Near East and the Aegean, he was known by many names: Attis, Adonis, Tammuz, Dumuzi, Osiris. Jesus was called Adonai, Lord, after his erotic prototype, Adonis. As a vegetation god, he was ritually sacrificed, usually on a tree, prototype of the later crucifix. His flesh was eaten as bread, his body drunk as wine. Dionysus is the god of the vine, wine, and the divine intoxication. This ritual sacrifice in the hardest season was believed to be necessary for the land's fertility. The immortal sun, mortal part, his flesh and blood energies were cut up and sprinkled on the fields. This Christ idea was in no way original with the Hebrews of the Bible, but inherited by them, along with Paradise Gardens myth, flood myth, and the entire birth, death, rebirth ritual cosmology from the entire Neolithic agriculture great goddess religion of the Near East. They added to all that this just one new twist, the incorporation of the mother's son into a strictly patriarchal ontology. From ritual to romance, English scholar Jesse Weston traced the red thread from these Neolithic mother goddess, son lover, sacrificed god mystery cults into the early Christian mysticism, and also into pagan European legends of the Grail, the sacred quest, and the healing of the wasteland, which became merged with the Christian romance. 20th century poets like T.S. Eliot drew heavily on her discoveries and the ideas without giving her much credit, but turned the spirit quest into one of patriarchal Christian despair and resignation rather than a courageous and ecstatic return and reintegration with the goddess. Poetry was originally oral, the chant of ecstatic dance and entranced prophecy. Long before the Song of Songs, Near Eastern erotic poetry was the expression of the love cycle of Inanna and Dumuzi, Ishtar and Tammuz, the goddess and her son lover. The Song of Songs itself is clearly a pre-patriarchal chant of ecstasy to the Black Goddess. Among the North African Berbers and other pre-Islamic Moorish peoples in the region that is now Morocco and Algeria, it is the women who traditionally made, chanted, and sang the lyric love poetry. This tradition was undoubtedly once spread through the Western and Northern Africa. According to Briffault in his fascinating book, Troubadours, these Moorish women's song forms and erotic love poetries were carried by the Moors into Spain and the French provincial region, and were the seeds of the troubadour tradition that flourished in the Middle Ages. This tradition became European lyric poetry.